In a 10 pizza maker. When we end up getting trapped by Chica, if you don't try to escape through all chips and you try to go the other way, we end up getting stuck in a security office with only one working door, which Chica is guarding. However, we also just so happen to have access to a monitor connected to the online Freddy Fazbear Pizza Maker, an online service where we remotely control a robot to make a pizza that just so happens to lure Chica away from us. That's way too convenient in my eyes. There is no way that we just so happen to run into this office, the one that has access to this despite Freddy being disconnected for the main server for whatever reason. This computer is connected to it. I mean, I don't know how this is possible. This is way too lucky for this to just be luck. Oh well, okay. I mean, maybe it's not so lucky. The first time I tried this minigame, I got stuck in the tomato sauce machine and I made some very disturbing step animatronic jokes towards Chica because of it. Actually, no, that was pretty funny. In 9 closed doors. Okay, so the reason we get stuck in the Pizzaplex in the first place in this game is because we don't make it to the doors before midnight and then they close on us, somehow being unable to open again, despite that being a horrible safety hazard. But that's still awfully convenient for not only the game, but for Vanny and William Afton in general, right? I mean, it's not lucky for us, but this is about the game's luckiest moments. So how did that happen? Well, before the doors close, Freddy sends us to get a pass in order to free him from his green room, and then everything seems to go well for that part. But then, for some reason, without ever mentioning it before, Freddy tells us that he senses that we're broken and that he needs to bring us to medical so that we can get fixed up, even though we are literally inside of him at the start of the game, and when he pulls us out he scans us, but this is suddenly a new problem. Well, we then get a run-in with Vanessa, and then Freddy fends her off, but other than that, we stay the same. We don't get healed, we don't get a band-aid, we get in the booth, instantly turn around and then start watching the scene in front of us, almost as if it was just to like build our trust with Freddy. After that, Freddy doesn't ever mention how we're broken or injured again, especially since after that little stop, even if you go full steam ahead the fastest you can go sprinting the entire time, you can't make it out the front doors. In at 8, you're supposed to be on lockdown. Freddy, you're supposed to be on lockdown is the first line that we hear Vanessa say in this game, and it's also the start of the meeting that I just talked about. The one that we really shouldn't have had because we weren't injured? Yeah, well, interestingly, this conversation actually also describes how lucky we are. Firstly, if Freddy is supposed to be on lockdown, why is it just Freddy who is? Like, why? Is it because he glitched out? And if that is the case, wouldn't you be glad that he's working again? You know, for the company's sake? And secondly, it's incredible that Vanessa sees Freddy, tells him that he's supposed to be on lockdown, and then doesn't escort him back, allowing him to just roam free afterwards. And then she doesn't even continue to go the way she was walking. After scolding Freddy, she turns around and walks back the way she came while she was searching for us, facing even more towards us while we're in the booth, and doesn't notice the feet under the curtain or the kid watching from between the curtains. Weird, right? Especially when she's supposed to be looking for us. I don't know, it just seems off to me, okay? It's like a whole load of this game does. Oh, by the way, if you're liking this video and want to see more weird moments from Security Breach that shouldn't have happened, hit like and subscribe and let me know in the comments. It had 7 paint cans. After starting the game and getting to the free roam section where you like have the tutorial for distracting animatronics, I just want to mention how goddamn lucky that is, okay? Like, one of the animatronics you're going to need to avoid, no matter how damn fine she is and how alluring she is, you still need to avoid her, is literally right there in front of you blocking your path. Yet, somehow, there is also a stack of paint cans randomly in the middle of a random cart in the hall in front of you. Okay, why? That cart is also just for some reason blocking the hall that I'm sure multiple employees love having to walk around. But you know what? That's fine. It's fine that it's blocking the way because you can knock over the convenient and empty paint cans that are on top of it just so that Chica can come and investigate it. I don't, like, what? She's right next to the door that she ends up using to investigate it, so it's not like she's being inconvenient by taking that way. But like, still, and I get that it's for tutorial's sake, so like, oh yeah, this this is how you do it, but like in the context of their world, that's super lucky. Suspiciously lucky. And it's 6, security access. Gregory throughout his time in this game steals so many things from the Pizzaplex, not even including all the little like gift boxes you can find around the place. He also steals security badges and ends up getting enough to have level 7 clearance. It's like a 4-year-old or however old he is, okay? It doesn't matter in this case. It's really unclear how old he is or how tall he is because he can't ride the go-kart alone, but he can fit in Freddy's cake cavity, but he can also speak full sentences with proper grammar and knows more words than I do. Like, again, no idea how old he is, but no matter what, how is he able to gain level 7 clearance? How are these so readily available for him to steal? And how is it that taking these badges always triggers some form of event that makes everything worse? How are the security guards supposed to use these badges if this is what happens every time they take it? Or you know what, an even better question, how are these security badges just laying around in like really special containers when the security should just have them on their belt with their normal clearance level, okay? Because getting multiple level 1 passes doesn't end up adding up to a maximum of level 8 clearance. That's still level 1. It's just a lot of level 1. Okay, I don't get it. It makes no sense. It's stupid. How about doing a number 5, glitched Freddy? Alright, hear me out. It seems highly convenient that we just so happen to be at the show where Freddy glitches out, and that seemingly, as we're led to believe, this glitch is what causes him to refuse the Afton virus code thing. Like what? How? We're supposed to believe that this glitch or this error is caused by Gregory, given the security threat message that pops up next to the silhouette of a child when we're actually like watching it from Freddy's perspective. But if that is true and we caused the glitch, how is a kid in a group full of kids a security threat when people are allowed to be in the Pizzaplex at this time? Like, sure, he didn't have a guest profile or whatever, but if Gregory was the glitch, wouldn't Freddy have glitched again after scanning us when we start the game? Honestly, I think that the hardest part to believe about this, strangely enough, is the fact that we were able to climb inside of Freddy while he was glitching out on stage without anyone noticing. Like, sure, maybe he wasn't on stage when we ended up climbing in, but a glitched animatronic is surely going to have some form of personnel around them so that they can get fixed up, especially when he is the headliner and it happened during a show. No way that he didn't go through parts and service before we actually end up meeting him in the first moments of the game. That's some strange, like, god level luck right there, okay? Is that really what happened? Jeez, that's some Talos level luck right there. Oh, praise mighty Talos. In it for Fazbear Blaster. Okay, is it just me, or is a place like the Pizzaplex giving away a golden version of their laser gun totally far-fetched? Because that's the story that we're supposed to be believing when we get the blaster after winning. That winning this game was essential because it was the only way to obtain the prize of the Fazbear Blaster that you can then run around and shoot people with. And when you do shoot those people, they will have a reaction no matter where you shoot them, as seen in the What If You Shoot Vanessa video here on YouTube. Which essentially means that this thing is a laser beam taser, okay? And I don't think that I should have to explain why that's a bad idea. So, why is not only this place giving away a laser taser, but also one that when shot disables your main feature animatronics? That seems like just literally the worst idea that you could think of. Almost as if they've never learned. Getting close to the end, and at number 3, Moondrop. While there are plenty of times that Gregory could have been made in this game, particularly when Freddy gets grabbed by the Moondrop animatronic right outside of parts and service, that should have been it. You're trying to tell me that the daycare attendant, the dude who really wants to get us, told Vanessa that Freddy was in parts and service in the room or whatever, but didn't mention that we were in the recharge station that was right next to it? I mean, like, he knew we were there. He waved at us while taking Freddy away. What? Then, when she talks to Freddy, she's talking as if she doesn't know that we're listening in. It's almost like they put on a show. Like, sure, the daycare attendant isn't able to get us if we're in a recharge station, but we clearly aren't invisible to him because he literally waves at us. So why wouldn't he inform Vanessa about this while mentioning Freddy? And if he did, why not bring that up when talking to Freddy instead of just asking him if he's helping us? It doesn't make sense. The daycare attendant not ratting on us is definitely a lucky moment, but I guess, I don't know, maybe he knows that snitches get stitches, or maybe since Moondrop is such a damn creeper, he wanted to save us for himself. Oh god. But ultimately, into number 2, destruction. Isn't it convenient that there is a way to break every animatronic that isn't Freddy, that leaves the animatronic broken in such a way that you can remove whatever aspect that you need to upgrade Freddy? Hell yeah it is. Like, it's so lucky that there is somehow a way to break each of these animatronics in like the perfect amount for the animatronics as well. There's no more and there's no less. We don't have to use the same thing twice. And it works the first time. Even like with Chica, okay? We push her into a trash compactor because she isn't actually crawling in, and then somehow we don't get crushed despite her grabbing onto us and trying to pull us with her. We only get pulled into another area of this mallplex thing that we can then get back to the main pizzaplex through, instead of just being pulled into the trash compactor and having our heads explode. So yeah, needless to say that looking at it logically, it's extremely lucky that there is a way to destroy each of the evil animatronics in a way that allows us to get their specific upgrades, even though we didn't really need to crush the animatronics, and instead could have just chilled in Freddy's room until 6 AM when the doors opened. And finally, in at number 1, canon ending. During the true ending, or the Afton, burn trap ending, whatever the hell you want to call it, everything we experience is so freaking insanely lucky, like beyond even protagonist standards of luck. We have to fend off Burn Trap's attempts to take control over Freddy by setting him on fire using what are most likely the systems that Henry used to set the same building on fire in FNAF 6. I mean, it's incredibly thoughtful of the ground to only give out at the perfect moments that we fall into the room that we need to, with very easy to understand monitors set up connected to cameras in the various rooms that Burn Trap enters, and only those rooms, with buttons that light fires in the rooms that correspond to what the monitor sees. Plus, I mean, like, you really gotta think about it. How are these still working? It's clearly been a while. These cameras and old computers are still working for an unknown amount of years after being set on fire that was enough to ruin the building. Not to mention, after falling into a sinkhole that had to open up beneath it. How is this all still working after that? And not only after that, but all of these computer monitors are literal dinosaurs. Like, if you go into an abandoned school library, this is what you will see. How did they work before the fire, let alone after? Okay, my parents have a monitor like this and it doesn't work, and I'm certain we took better care of it than a decrepit pizza brand that's been set on fire multiple times. So I don't know how this happened. And at 10, real Freddy's. A load of people couldn't tell if I was being serious or not when the shorts we made about this topic came out, but I guarantee you that it was actually real. This isn't something that I was making up, it wasn't a hoax, it's actually a thing, okay? Freddy Fazbear's Pizza is real, or well, it was going to be, because the company that made Mr. Beast Burger possible, called Virtual Dining Concepts, did announce that they had partnered with Scott Cawthon to take the first ever fictional video game setting and turn it into a real-life delivery restaurant. Emphasis on that delivery part, however, because I cannot stress it enough, there was no actual location that you could have walked into. And it's really happening, or at least it was. Since, if you check out the Virtual Dining Concepts website now, there is no Freddy Fazbear's Pizza delivery page. And it seems like between September 30th and December 4th of 2022, they removed it off of their brands page. But there was also still a page that existed for it until December 4th, according to Wayback Machine. It's certainly an interesting situation, but yeah, it seems like nothing is actually going to happen. Maybe they canceled it. Maybe they didn't. I tweeted about it, and the account that was the official account for Freddy Fazbear's Pizza Delivery just replied with a frowny face. So I don't know. Do you think it's gonna happen? And if it does, and it releases this year, I'm gonna celebrate because I called that years ago, okay? Not because it happened, but because I called it. And at 9, final battle. During the true ending, or the Afton ending, the burn trap ending, whatever you want to call it in Security Breach, everything we experience is so frickin' improbable, okay? Like, beyond even protagonist standards. We have to fend off Burn Trap's attempts to take control of Freddy by setting him on fire, using what are most likely the mechanisms that Henry used to set the building on fire in FNAF 6, since it's the same one. However, it's incredibly thoughtful careful of the ground to only give out at the perfect moments that we fall into the room that we need to have this battle, with very easy to understand monitors that are set up and connected to cameras in the various rooms that Burntrap enters, and only those rooms, he only goes into those rooms, and with buttons that light fires in the room that corresponds to what monitor it's on. Plus, I mean, like if you think about it, how are these still working? It has clearly been a while. These cameras and old computers are still working for an unknown amount of years after being set on fire in FNAF 6, which was enough to ruin the building, and then not to mention falling into a sinkhole that had opened up beneath it, having a whole pizzaplex built on top of it, and who knows what else. How is all of this working after that? And not only after that, but these computer monitors as well are literal dinosaurs, okay? Like, how did they work before the fire, let alone after it, okay? My parents have a monitor like this and it doesn't work, and I'm pretty sure we didn't throw it in a sinkhole. And it ain't killing where you eat. The biggest mistake that William ever made, and I will stand by this until the day that I die, was the fact that he killed people in his establishment. It's unknown if this was always his intention, but come on, okay? Who the absolute hell thinks that this is a good idea? Who in the comments wants to justify killing your prime demographic in that place of business? Dealers don't kill their best customers, right? It's bad for business. So why would William think that this is a good idea? Literally go anywhere else, okay? It's basically like killing someone in your own house. It's putting unwanted and unneeded scrutiny on every single thing that you do. You even end up getting banned from going back in while the investigation is underway. And it's not like it helped your business, okay? You had to close the first location, resulting in you having to open another one that killed your daughter. So I think that this mistake is the one that caused literally everything in the series. Yeah, all you had to do was kill someone in a park instead. And your kids would be alive too, by the way. Yeah, you'd also be harder to suspect, and you'd be rich from the business. Wow. And it's 7, Brave Volunteer. I think one of the darkest moments ever presented to us in any FNAF game is when we're trapped in the FNAF 6 pizzeria by Henry without the choice of escape. Without the choice to keep living, honestly. And before you say that this is what we wanted, remember how Henry says that the job in that game wasn't meant for us, which means that it was either meant for someone else or was just an open call, but either way, he still says, I think this is what you want, or I have a feeling, not I know, he thinks, meaning it's an assumption. Even though there is a way out plan for whoever was supposed to get the job, we aren't given the option. We aren't told where the exit is just in case. Henry just assumes that we want to burn to death along with everything else, which does not make sense. Sure, you want to destroy all of the evidence, but there's still, let's go over this, newspaper articles, maybe online articles now, given on how long the series had taken place up until FNAF 6. The games that Scott made in universe, the police reports, the families of the victims. And you were gonna let whoever worked here instead of us go with the exit despite them seeing everything that happened in this game. Yeah, it seems kinda sus to me. And it's even weirder that we can't search for a way out. This should have been an impossible scene, but you know what? It still happened, and I'm mad. And it's 6, Princess Quest. The whole reason Princess Quest is a thing in Security Breach was to seemingly lock Vanessa away and prevent her from regaining control of her body. So, why did William create or allow for the creation of a failsafe that allows her to escape? Come on. I mean, sure, they didn't expect some random kid to come along and figure it out maybe, but given the track record of the series, you'd think that Afton would have smartened up after like 40 years at least. But it's like any Bond villain this time around. They have a self-destruct button on the bomb that they plan to use. Or if like the Flash had a steal all my speed button on his suit. It's just stupid. And you know what, it worries me that that's actually how the Flash series could end. But like still, okay, if you want something to work, why give it a way to fail? If you tie someone up, why put a knife right next to them? I don't know. Does that make sense, or is that just my developmental issues coming into play? No matter what, this is one of the dumbest things that has ever happened in the series. Seriously, what was the point behind a way to undo your evil plans? It's one of the most ridiculous things in the story, and that's saying a lot. I get that it's so that we can save her and have like the best ending, but that ending isn't even canon. so we could have done without it. And if you want to hear me scream about FNAF more, be sure you hit subscribe, because I do it, and I do it a bit. A lot. Halfway through into number 5, Springtrap's Revenge. One of the many questionable business decisions from Fazbear Entertainment, and straight up at this point, this company has like a Vatican library full of bad business decisions. But Springtrap's Revenge is a VR game that was the subject of the Fazbear Fright story in the flesh from Bunny Call, the 5th book in the series, which was supposed to be the end. The story revolves around a game theorist, I mean a game developer named Matt, who creates a Springtrap AI using all of his anger from a divorced and failed relationship, or multiple of them. And then, you know how emotions work in this game, it turns Springtrap sentient. Cause, you know, reasons. The game ends up getting too difficult, so instead Matt reprograms the game to actually torture Springtrap because he ended up getting mad at the computer AI. Yeah, then Springtrap goes nuts. But my question is, why would they make a whole VR game surrounding Springtrap and trying to survive him, when he was literally a real-life serial killer in your reality and your CEO? Sure, in our world we wouldn't really care, because, you know, Springtrap's not real. But it's not like Valve or Stress Level Zero is going around making like a Ted Bundy simulator or John Wayne Gacy survival game. No, because that would be in poor taste and way too real for anyone related to the victims of these people. So why would Fazbear Entertainment willingly make a video game revolving around the killer that ruined their reputation in the first place? It seems like a horrible idea to me. And at 4, Free Freddy. Okay, most of my gripes are with Security Breach, I will admit, for obvious reasons. I mean, have you played the game? But in the past, I have talked a lot about the parts and service section of the game, because Gregory seems to get extremely lucky at multiple points in this chapter. However, the luckiest and the most impossible, I think, comes after Vanessa leaves Freddy in parts and service. She says that his casing is going to be put on a new endoskeleton, and after at least corporate gives the go-ahead or the green light or whatever they have to do, because someone, you know, they bring someone in on the clock to actually do it. But she doesn't seem suspicious that after she leaves him disassembled and strapped down, that he's walking around Rockstar Row 3 minutes later. Like, come on, okay? Who would have repaired him? I don't know. He couldn't have done it himself. His hands are literally strapped to the table. There is literally no other living human in the Pizzaplex at this point aside from Gregory. And, you know, the whole containment cylinder thing is used to protect humans. So robots obviously aren't the ones doing the fixing. Okay, there are no staff bots in parts and service. And the reason you had to leave him there was because nobody else was working since it was after midnight. Why would Vanessa be so nonchalant about Freddy walking around after that? If I was a doctor and I left a patient sedated on a hospital bed with their chest opened, you know, and then like 3 minutes later they come say hi to me with their chest closed, I'm not gonna be like, oh hey, what's up? No, I'm gonna be concerned. So why does she just chill? She's just like, oh yeah, what's up, Freddy? I don't get it, okay? Why would she not confine him to his room after that, especially after she just accused him of helping Gregory? Getting close to the end, and at number 3, hiding spot. This is why I think at some point I'm going to get accused of being a serial killer, okay? Because of how much I complain about Afton's just blatant stupidity. How the absolute living hell did he end up getting away with putting the missing children victims into the animatronics? The smell of rotting bodies would ruin the place, alright? The heat from the animatronics insides when they're moving would only speed up decomp, and the animatronics are in front of people every single day. They even started complaining that they started leaking blood and mucus, as well as being compared to corpses. If this was real life and William getting away with this wasn't important to the plot, he would have been caught instantly. I don't know how this wasn't an open and shut case straight up. But ultimately, in at number 2, doors. If you didn't know that this was going to be on the list, you haven't been watching this channel enough. Why? Why do they open when the power is out? That makes no sense. Everyone keeps telling me that it's like electromagnets and that's the kind of thing. But like, whenever I bring this up, it doesn't work like that, okay? electromagnets require power to turn on, so if anything, it would be costing power to keep the doors open rather than closed. Gravity doesn't work in reverse. If the magnet is off, the door would just fall down, okay? I get that it's supposed to be for gameplay purposes, but in what universe does this make sense? There is no conceivable way that these doors should have worked in that way, but they do. They do, and it makes me mad. It's the reason I go to therapy. It's the reason I'm screaming in all of these videos. It's the frickin' doors, alright? It is. And finally, in at number 1, crying child. I've had a ton of people complain to me about how Crying Child's death wasn't William's fault, even though I keep saying that it is, since he wasn't the one who put his head in Fredbear's mouth, and, you know, the spring locks failed because he was crying. But, to me, there is no logical way that the animatronic jaw would have crushed his skull. The spring locks were already active at this point and would require a lot of power to actually accomplish, like, this instead of just normal opening and closing. So, the only way that Crying Child's skull could have been crushed was if Afton had intentionally supercharged the animatronic, which would make sense if he wanted to use it as a kill machine or a backup kill suit, or maybe it was his original plan, figuring that more power would, you know, help him kill, which clearly it does, just in the worst way possible. And there's no way that this is a spring lock failure. The Fredbear suit was already in animatronic mode, meaning that these spring lock mechanisms that could fail, that are, you know, the ones that are used to keep the robot parts out so that someone can be in the suit, aren't being used because no one's in the suit. The spring lock failure problem comes from when these mechanisms are put under stress and then can snap back into place. But if they're already in place, they can't snap back into place. If it's in robot mode, they aren't being used. And also, there's none in the mouth to begin with, it's open. Meaning that what happened should have been impossible unless it was supercharged. So unless you finally want to accept that, it belongs on this list. In at 10, Vanessa. Possessing Vanessa itself was certainly one of the more messed up things that William did, okay? I mean, it kind of sounds weird, you know, and also extremely unrealistic. Like, this guy just pops up in your VR headset, then takes over your body after you collected 16 digital VHS tapes, or cassette tapes, I guess, technically. But then after he takes over your body, you end up killing for him, okay? That's messed up. And like, not even kind of, that's incredibly messed up. But also, like, how? I mean, like, she knows what's going on too. She actively talks in hushed tones about how she can't talk to her therapist about it. But like, Afton got lucky with specifically was that Vanessa has no willpower to actually sacrifice for the greater good, okay? I mean, like, at this point, I feel like it's fairly safe to infer that Jeremy from FNAF VR didn't go crazy because he just saw Glitch Trap. I think it's fairly reasonable to say that he got possessed. At this point, Tape Girl hadn't broken up Glitch Trap into the tapes yet, and he was probably just able to possess whoever he wanted. So if Jeremy did get possessed, and the possession worked in a similar way to that it did to Vanessa, Jeremy would at times be sentient and in control of his own body. So if he knew about Glitch Trap, maybe he didn't cut his face off because he was freaking out. Maybe he did it to try to kill the monster that was inside him. In at 9, Princess Quest. The whole Princess Quest thing, its purpose was to lock Vanny away and prevent her from regaining control of her own body. So why did William create or allow for the creation of a fail-safe that allows her to escape? I mean, like, sure, they didn't expect a random kid to come along, figure it out, maybe, but given the track record of Afton and his plans, you'd think that he would have smartened up after at least 50 years. I don't understand. That's like having a self-destruct button on the bomb that you wanted to make sure nobody could stop. Or if Superman had like a kill me button, or just like had like a free kryptonite vending machine that he just put out in the middle of Metropolis. It's stupid. Like, if you want something to work, why give it a possible way to fail? One of the dumbest things that William has ever done. But he's also so goddamn lucky that it didn't backfire canonically. Seriously, what's the point behind having a way to undo your evil plans? This could just as reasonably actually been the canon ending to the game, even though we play as a kid the size of a 4-year-old. And the fact that it wasn't the canon ending, it's pure luck the way that that didn't happen, okay? Just like bury the third machine if you insist on doing this. And at 8, spring lock suits. The spring lock suits in general are also something that William and even Henry both got extremely lucky with. Like, while Henry may not have like designed the spring lock suits, he certainly let Afton create them and then allowed for their use in the restaurants despite them being incredibly dangerous to employees, only putting them out of commission when someone eventually got hurt and not actually being proactive because, you know, they are literal death machines. You make separate animatronics animatronics, and then you have separate costumes, okay? That's the right move, that's the smart move, that's the safe move. But these so-called businessmen thought, yeah, I'll put the safety of my employees at risk by making them wear a hot as balls suit filled with robot parts that even with the slightest bit of moisture will shoot those robotic parts right back to where your bones are. What can possibly go wrong? Like, you think that Willy Wonka has OSHA violations? Imagine FNAF's OSHA violations. Oh wait, actually, you don't have to, because we already did a whole list on that. Be sure you go check it out. But seriously, the fact that nobody sued them because they were being put in these things instead of, like, you know, much safer and cheaper options of, you know, a fabric suit is insane. And at 7, calling the cops. Let's look at this logically, alright? Henry knew what was going on with Afton, and that Afton had some shady scenarios cooking in his brain. So if he knew that this man was up to no good, and he was fearing for his daughter's safety, why didn't he make the call to the police and be like, hey man, so this William Afton guy is like thinking about killing kids, and probably is the one that's been killing the kids that you're looking for. Like, I mean, sure, maybe you didn't have proof, but you could have certainly tipped them off, and then they could have, you know, found the proof. Come on, they could at least keep a closer eye on him, but you didn't. And instead, you did a whole load of other that in reality didn't do anything to stop William. I mean, you did one thing that put him out of commission for like 30 years, but again, that was only 30 years. You could have stopped him. You could have actually stopped him in his tracks, but instead you chose to keep your mouth shut. That is Afton's plot armor working overtime with no extra pay. And at 6, leave it to fate. FNAF 6 was supposed to be the end of the Afton story. I was so looking forward to it. That's what Henry sets out to do in this game. Make sure that nobody remembered what happened there. However, this also figured that the first fire didn't work, so a second one surely will. And in fact, he was so confident in this plan for whatever goddamn reason that he actually let himself die in the process to leave nobody remembering what happened. But he didn't think that even if himself, William, and all their kids are dead, the parents of the victims still know. And as we learned from Security Breach in the duffel bags, there are other parents who remember it too. Like, it's a whole thing in the FNAF universe. They cite the missing children from the Pizzaplex as happening again. If Henry had stuck around to see if the job was really done, maybe William wouldn't have been able to possess Vanny and come back yet again and just kill more people. Henry should have lit the place up, smashed everything that survived, and then maybe you could have offed yourself. But at least make sure the job is done first. Halfway through into number 5, worst Easter ever. Okay, from an in-universe perspective, in Security Breach, Vanny brought back seemingly this Earth's most prolific killer. But from a story perspective, it also kinda comes out of nowhere and feels forced. And in a game sense, he also just looks terrifying and then sends all the broken animatronics after us. And lore-wise, Afton's back again. However, he's also not entirely back this time, considering how this version actually seems to finally be dead, however only functional because maybe the coded version of Afton's consciousness is inside the animatronic. No matter what, this shouldn't have worked. He shouldn't have been able to have a sentient code form possessed Vanny, but then also be able to be present in his actual body. Like, what? Unless this entire time after getting spring locked, his consciousness was instantly turned into a code, and that was then controlling the Springtrap suit, and in a way, I guess, would make sense. I mean, it would make a lot more sense than him being possessed by the spirit of his son. But from everything we've gotten, including Ultimate Custom Night and the man in room 1280, he was possessed, but to be kept alive so he could keep suffering, okay? Meaning that none of this should have worked. But it did, and it forsprung. So this absolute animatronic genius, the technician that made these suits, that handles the maintenance and has explained to every employee that has put on one of these things on like the proper procedure for the spring lock suits and making sure that it doesn't, you know, snap and then kill you, including the spring body suit that he uses to kill, ends up climbing inside the suit in a panic in an attempt to make himself feel more powerful. But somehow he's so smart that he didn't notice the leaking goddamn ceiling, which is already a health hazard, which you should have noticed beforehand. But then this also causes the spring locks that were active to snap shut, which would have killed him. However, this lucky mother hubber somehow managed to get possessed by someone who was so pissed at him that they kept him alive through all of his supposed to be deaths because they wanted William to suffer. Did they not realize how counterintuitive that is? The man literally wants to live forever, and you are enabling him to do so. Old Man Consequences is right. Leave the demon to his demons. Rest your own soul so that Afton could finally die and then actually suffer in hell for all of eternity, instead of a goddamn dream version that you made up when he was recharging underneath the Pizzaplex, or before he showed up in FNAF 6, or whenever you were goddamn torturing him with all this fake hell you made up. God damn it! Getting close to the end in number 3, first victim. They say that a killer's first victim is the most important, since it might indicate what really got them to start killing or other psychological clues that they can use to predict his next moves. But in the case of William Afton, his first victim was the daughter of his longtime business partner Henry, which is hella messed up because she was 3 at the time. And while we may have talked about how Henry dropped the ball before, this was the year that Afton's life started going downhill in the worst of ways. Cause like he started killing off kids, and then he sticks with that MO throughout the rest of the criminal career. Then like he also loses his kids after that. But the fact that his first victim was someone who trusted him, who didn't really suspect him of anything, even though her father did, is something that I fear. But ultimately, in number 2, baby. This guy is actually the luckiest mother alive. This girl was killed by a robot her father made that was specifically designed to kill. She was then locked away in an underground storage unit where she was regularly shocked and tortured by scientists, technicians that William probably hired so that they could try and find out the answers to why she's possessed. She goes through all of this, is locked underground for like 45 years at least, and then goes on to try to make her father proud in FNAF 6. She literally says, quote, "I will make proud, daddy," while her father is literally in the building with her. Girl, this man is the reason you are dead. Literally, there is no debate about it here. This is 100% William's fault. And the fact that he didn't put a blacklist of people not to kill only makes this more on him. But you still want to make him proud? And finally, and at number 1, the Palladium rule. I will stand by this until the day I die. And you know what? I used to call it the Platinum rule, but now it's the Palladium rule because it's a meme and I love it. The most ridiculous but luckiest thing that has ever happened in FNAF was the fact that William Afton killed people in his own place of business and then didn't get caught. I don't know if this was always his intention, but like, who the absolute living hell would think that this is a good idea? Seriously, even if it's a TV show, okay, How I Met Your Mother does have some good lessons. One of those is Barney's Platinum rule, which is if you have to see the person every day because you work with them or they live in an apartment next door to you, okay, don't engage in some form of relationship, okay, because come a breakup, which is statistically probable, it just results in awkwardness and pain. And while this isn't the exact same thing, you are at this building all the time. Your name is a part of the company, so why would you think that this is a good idea? Literally go anywhere else, okay? You ended up even getting banned while there was an investigation underway. I don't get it.
Number 10, Mermaid Chica. I don't think we really needed like a Chica mermaid, and yet that's something we got. Mermaid Chica appears in Security Breach, and she's actually originally from Help Wanted. She was more creepy looking there actually, which is kind of awkward in its own way. But in Security Breach, Glamrock Mermaid Chica only appears as a cutout, and she is looking weirdly attractive and flirty? I don't know if it's just me seeing that, but her design has definitely been made less creepy and more cute at the very least. This version of Chica also doesn't have a cupcake, but instead has an oyster to supplant her little animatronic cupcake sidekick. And if you didn't already know, we have a new channel that you need to check out. It's the next biggest thing, and you'll want to be one of the first 100,000 subscribers, trust me. It's Most Amazing Top 10 Anime. Press pause, go sub, then come back and join me as we count down. Number 9, getting the Faz Watch. Another strange thing in the world is when you as Gregory berate Glamrock Freddy for talking so loudly. One, it's pretty awkward how inherently rude Gregory seems here and just in general. Freddy only seems to want to help, but Gregory constantly criticizes him for doing even that, complaining that the booming volume of his voice could all too easily attract the security guard Vanessa, who Gregory does not trust and doesn't want to find him, which kinda also seems suspicious. What are you hiding, Gregory? Why don't you want security to find you? But the other weird thing is that before this, you were in Freddy's chest cavity, and in order for him to communicate with you without being outright heard, he decides to give you a Faz Watch. Now where does he keep said Faz Watch? Well, also in his chest cavity, which implies that during the time that you were in there before, you were actually sharing that very small space with a crank and a gift box, which is how you get the Faz Watch. Even though when you look in to take that Faz Watch, it looks like this device takes up the entire space of Freddy's chest cavity. So how is that possible? Or does he just make Faz Watches appear out of thin air? I don't know. Physics. Number 8, climbing inside Freddy. Another weird part of this entire thing, despite it being super cool as well, is actually climbing inside Freddy. That is because it definitely seems like you would not be able to fit inside his chest cavity, even minus, like I said, the crank and the gift box, which are removed after you get the Faz Watch from Freddy. Still, even with that space cleared, it just looks way too small for how big the character is supposed to be. It kind of makes me think they should have designed Glamrock Freddy to just be like basically a giant booming character. He's already pretty giant, but I just feel like he needs to be even larger, so the scaling would work better in your mind. But also, then he'd probably be like way more intimidating and kind of scary, and they probably wanted to make sure he stayed, you know, kind of like approachable and friendly looking, since he's supposed to be kind of like your pal in the game. So I get it, but it still is super awkward because it doesn't feel like it makes any spatially logical sense for at least enough for this to even be possible. Number 7, Freddy teleporting. This was something that was later fixed in the game, but initially it was kind of like a glitch, or really just a choice in terms of the game's programming that was really creepy. Originally, when you summoned Glamrock Freddy, he would just appear near you. He wouldn't have to run over from where he was previously, but instead would be able to just like kind of shortcut to where you were by seemingly teleporting to your side as Gregory in the game, usually appearing behind you so that it didn't seem like he necessarily teleported. It would be like, no one's there, there's Freddy. So a little weird. This wasn't in canon teleporting, at least I don't think it was intended to be that way anyways. Just a choice made by the game designers on how Freddy would appear near you when you called him and you needed him. Later on, this was patched and changed so that when Freddy came, you could always pretty much see him running up as opposed to sneaking up behind you, which admittedly was a little creepy and awkward, but was maybe a bit more convenient too. Also, I don't even know if it was less creepy and awkward than Freddy like charging towards you, which is also kind of scary, admittedly. Number 6, having a crush on Chica. Obviously, we all have a crush on Chica. There's nothing awkward about that, right? But there is something really awkward about how much Gregory seems to enjoy doing harm to animatronics. That for sure is awkward. Case in point, when we are forced as Gregory to get Chica into the trash compactor so we can literally have a crush on her by crushing her. Not only do you as Gregory turn on the trash compactor with Chica in it either, but you are also forced to literally push her into it and then watch as she's crushed right before your eyes. Though really, you'd think backing up here would make more sense. As a result of staying there to watch, you actually end up being dragged down into the garbage chute, and all because Gregory seems to be more obsessed with watching Chica like get crushed up close after pushing her in than his own safety. Which is also in itself pretty awkward and disturbing. Like, I love how Gregory pushes her and then he's just like, yes, yes, be destroyed. Gregory is definitely gonna grow up to be an interesting adult. Number 5, taking Roxy's eyes. It doesn't end with crushing Chica. It really only continues to get worse from there. Although I guess, if like me, Chica is one of your favorite animatronics, then it already starts out pretty bad. I don't know about you, but I really didn't want to crush Chica. With Roxy, at least for many of us, she's kind of like one of the most annoying characters in this game. Although, of course, if there are any major Roxy fans out there, please let me know in the comments. If you actually happen to like Roxy, that's cool too. If you don't find her annoying, that's fine, but she kinda annoying. With Roxy though, we literally need to take her eyes out of her head, which is, well, there's no other way to say it, it's pretty gruesome. And once again, Gregory does this all by himself, which is disturbing. Awkward and disturbing. I mean, we don't see it, but we hear it. We know what's happening. Number 4, confessing to Freddy. Another bizarre thing that happens in the game happens as the result of you as Gregory stealing all the animatronics parts to, you know, upgrade Freddy with. You basically have to confess to Glamrock Freddy at one point that yes, you stole these pieces from the bodies of his friends. Basically, dismembering and mutilating them. Which, yeah, it doesn't sound too good, does it? It's already awkward enough to have to do this in-game and watch as Gregory does so almost with seeming delight, but then to hear how casually Gregory plays off, you know, sharing where these pieces came from, and to hear Freddy be so sad about it, oh boy, it's an awkward conversation to listen in on, never mind technically be a part of. Freddy's like, my friends, and you're like, well, you know how it is. Sometimes I gotta destroy your friends, Freddy, just don't worry about it. I'll be your friend. I'll be your friend. Number 3, Vanny defeated. The ending where you can just choose to go for Vanny is like a weird one. Especially as it starts off with Freddy, as you finally have the option to leave the Pizzaplex, asking you if you want to stay, leave, or you can also choose Vanny. The choice is yours. Will you stay or go, Gregory? Vanny. Lol, what a strange response even. Vanny. If you choose Vanny as a bizarre answer to a question that had nothing to do with her really, then you will go after Vanny, attempting to get her where her home base is in the game at Fazbear Blaster. Once there is no way to play through this apprehension really. It kinda just happens, with you not really getting much of a say in how it plays out. You're more a witness than an active participant, I would say. Freddy is immediately taken off the board, and then you're forced to pursue Vanny and order her loyal animatronics to turn on her, dismantling her to defeat her. What is so messed up about that? Well, you're dismantling her, and she's not an animatronic, she's like a flesh and blood person. So that's pretty messed up. Dismantling. Number 2, comic book endings. One of the weird things about Security Breach in general is the endings that we get where we don't even really get complete like animations or cinematics. Instead we get some like moving comic book pages. It just seems weird and awkward that the rest of the game is like really polished and yet they decided to go with this for all of the endings. Like you don't even really get to play through them, even though they seem to have parts to them in terms of the story that seem like they would actually be kind of fun to play. I'm not sure if this is just a weird style choice or if this was just because, you know, they didn't want to spend the time or money incorporating the ending scenes into the same style of animation and gameplay as the rest of the game, and or making them like, you know, just more playable in general, as opposed to something that you just kind of watch happen in a comic book form and then you're like, well, I guess that's the ending. Cool. Number 1, the elevator. Probably one of the most awkward parts of Security Breach is the elevator interludes. When you have to get in the elevator with Freddy and you're just kinda there for a while. Especially because as soon as you're in close quarters, it becomes clear how weird and freaky Freddy is just in general. As soon as you're forced to focus on him, you'll notice how he creepily just like stares at you, almost obsessively. And because you're in close quarters, Glamrock Freddy will continuously kind of just open and close his chest cavity, preparing or like offering for you to like jump inside it. It seems really sinister, even though he's your friend and you know Freddy wouldn't harm you, but you can't help but question this odd behavior, or at least you're definitely freaked out by it. It's just a weird time. I feel like when I'm in the elevator, I'm like, just don't look. Just don't look at Freddy. Look anywhere else. Number 10, traveling around in Glamrock Freddy. Why is this weird to me? I mean, it's cool. But why is it weird? Well, because it really doesn't seem like there is enough room inside Freddy for you as Gregory to fit. And I still stand by this observation today. I've honestly been saying it since the release of this game, when we got to see the chest cavity and also get a sense for, you know, our own size as Gregory in the game. It just doesn't add up to me. And the claustrophobic side of myself kind of feels like, as cool as it is to move around more safely in Freddy and also in essence pilot him, that is cool, I personally would never want to climb inside of his chest, no matter how small or how big it was. That just seems like, no thank you. And definitely not if it is things like Faz Watch is also in there that I gotta share space with. That part where it appears that you get out still confuses me. Did the Faz Watch only appear like after, like moving up inside Freddy from another part of him, like a limb or something? Or was it there the whole time? If it was there the whole time, there's really no room. It really doesn't make sense. Number 9, friendly fire. Oh boy, this is just, I don't know. It's just silly. It's less WTF admittedly, and we're just like, why though? So if you end up getting the Fazbear Blaster, you can stun animatronics that are chasing you by shooting them in the eyes. This temporarily blinds them. That all makes sense to me. The other item you can get, the Faz camera, works in a similar way with its flash. Also, that makes sense. And yet, you can also use this to stun your friend Glamrock Freddy. Why would you ever want to do that? Why is that even possible? Why is that even an option? Just how sadistic is Gregory? These are all the questions I'm left to ask myself, and unfortunately you, who chose to watch this video, this shouldn't even be an option in the game, and yet hey, it is. You can do it. Just because Gregory is probably kind of partly a jerk all the time. And friends, before we move on to our next spot on this list, if you love what we do here at Top 10 Gaming, make sure you show us that you love us and that you want more FNAF content by hitting that like Number 8. What's in the vent? One of the most actually terrifying moments comes from the music man who chases us in the vent. But also, I have some questions about this. Where did this music man come from? Why is he in the vent? Why is there a small and giant music man in this game? Is this little music man part of DJ Music Man's army? Like, does he have a bunch of them? That sounds horrifying. And still, why is he in the vent? The sequence where you are chased by the little music man through the vent feels somehow even more terrifying than being chased by a regular size animatronic. Even though that should feel more threatening. And yet it also feels like a weird choice in terms of the narrative. But I guess in terms of creating a horrifying moment, the developers did succeed here. Which is probably why Music Man is in the vent to begin with. But I don't know, maybe that's also his dressing room? After all, you know, the main stage animatronics all get dressing rooms, so I mean, do the other animatronics get dressing rooms? Do the wet floor signs, do they have a room they get to go to? They should at least get like a green room or something where they can just like chill and hang out, or a break room, you know? Number 7, Mega DJ Music Man. I can't believe this really happened in the game. Also, if we're talking about animatronics getting their own dressing rooms, like DJ Music Man would need like such a big dressing room. He's such a big animatronic. A giant music man. That was real life in this game. I was so convinced when we got our first look at the trailer that Music Man, the giant music man that we saw, was going to be some kind of like delusional moment. Like, we'd simply imagine that Music Man was bigger than he was, we'd hallucinate it, and honestly, when I found out about the sleepy time candy, that honestly seemed even more plausible. I was like, oh boy. Sleepy time candy, whoo! But no, giant DJ Music Man is a real thing, and apparently he is usually a super nice guy, according to Glamrock Freddy. Super nice guy. However, in the game, he doesn't seem so nice when he's chasing you and your heart is thumping and you're literally running for your life. Yeah, DJ Music Man from Security Breach is still something that will haunt my nightmares today. It honestly kind of makes me wish he was some kind of hallucination or dream sequence in the game. I don't know, that would be more easy to accept, other than like, that's real life. That's horrifying. Number 6, ending the game early. I think one of the weirdest things that's built into this game is the ending the game early option. Like, the fact that we get that option, that's weird to me. That's just, it's an interesting thing to build in, and I don't fully understand really why they did. Like, I get having multiple different endings, because that's cool, but giving you even the option to leave at 6 AM and just like end the game when there is so much more to do in this game, and the game would be so short if you just stopped playing entirely there. I don't know, why is that an option? Did they add it in because they wanted people to have an out if they were too scared? And the real question, did anyone actually like full stop playing there? Let me know if you did, because I bet some people did do that, and those people would have drastically missed out, or did drastically miss out. That's why I don't even think the option should be available for us in game. It just seems weird. Number 5, lack of Vanny. Vanny was a character that we all got excited for. She was at least alluded to in Help Wanted, and you know, that was a theory when it came to her involvement in this game. And we knew about Vanessa, and then through Special Delivery it was kind of hinted that Vanessa and Vanny may be one and the same, and that Vanessa was being manipulated or influenced by Afton into doing his bidding, revealing a darker side to her. This was also the theory for what would continue to happen in the game's Security Breach. And because of that, people thought that Vanessa and Vanny might be, you know, the main antagonist, or Vanny would be anyways, between those two personas. And even better, maybe this would actually be a villain we could actually save. Maybe we'd actually get a villain that gets redeemed. Oh my goodness. And then Security Breach came out, and Vanny didn't do very much. Even the Vanny specific ending that we get is honestly kind of disappointing. We don't even get a Vanny boss battle option really, at least not a playable one. Number 4, upgrading Glamrock Freddy. One of the most messed up things that you do in the game is definitely defeating Glamrock Freddy's friends and stealing their parts to upgrade him. Especially since you generally try to avoid talking to him about like where exactly you got the parts and how exactly that happened. And when you do mention it, you're kind of just like, oh yeah, that happened, don't worry about it. And when it does end up coming out sort of what did happen and where you got the parts, yeah, it's an awkward conversation to have. Glamrock Freddy also seems really hurt that you hurt his friends. Oh, and he's like, they're not in their right minds, they're just innocent victims. And then there is the whole weirdness of how detached Gregory seems to be in regards to his own emotions surrounding the destruction of these seemingly somewhat sentient animatronics. I mean, I feel like he's a little shocked, but he doesn't seem to be distraught at all. And I mean, I don't know if these animatronics, all of them, are specifically sentient, but based on our experiences with Glamrock Freddy, I think it's relatively safe for us to assume they are on some level, right? Number 3, Demise of Roxy. I think one of the most messed up moments in this game is when you need to fight Roxy after you've in essence blinded her and like drastically messed her up. This really was the moment that made me question everything I thought I knew about this animatronic and her personality. Sure, Roxy seems self-centered and egotistical to begin with, but when you see just how devastated she is at the prospect of perhaps no longer being beautiful and being loved and accepted, oh man, that like hits you. It really shows you just how sad of a character this really is. It made me feel for Roxy, and it also made me feel horrible for everything being done to her. Like, I was thinking, dang, I don't want to see this animatronic hurt, but also that's how the game goes, so that's just like a thing that you have to have happen. You have to defeat her. You have to, in essence, kill her with fire. Or, you know, maybe not straight up kill her with fire, but at least stop her with fire. Number 2, it was Afton all along? The reveal that none of us were really hoping for, but I guess some part of us all was expecting to happen. I think the fact that William Afton was the villain behind Security Breach was not surprising, but at the same time, it was definitely something many of us were kind of hoping would not happen. Or I think even if you were like, oh, I want William Afton to come back, when it did happen, you were like, oh wait, maybe I never wanted that. Because like, why? I mean, William Afton is a horrifying villain, don't get me wrong, but he's also a very dead villain. A dead villain that we thought had been dead for a long time and multiple times over. And yet here we are with a villain that seems to keep coming back no matter how dead he is. He's been spring locked, returned as a restless, rotting corpse. He's been incinerated. He's been a ghost who haunted technology, getting uploaded into a game with his consciousness after he died, and now he seems to somehow be a charred husk looking for a new form. Cool, 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 great, love it. Number 1, Sleepy Time candy. Ugh, Moondrop, ugh. I don't really mind the energizing candy in this, the sun drop candy. Although I do feel like that maybe is sus too, because caffeine and high levels of caffeine and giving that to kids. But the Sleepy Time candy, that you can give to kids? I really don't know about that. Moondrop is what we often name the nighttime persona of the daycare attendant. This attendant also has its own matching candy, which is named after it and known for helping kids sleep. Or does anyone sleep? Would this candy work on me? Is it not just for kids? There's something really creepy to me about a candy that involuntarily can make you pass out. There's something really creepy to me about a candy that makes you sleep at all, because, well, it could be used for nefarious purposes pretty easily. Honestly, this was probably one of the biggest things in the game that freaked me out, though the Moondrop persona of the daycare attendant in general is just really creepy. That and like when Moondrop is around, you get like the nightimey vibes. Oh, I don't like that either. That bothers me.